DJO Welcome to DJO TV.
David Hundeyin, wey be investigative journalist, don expose Babati and family onto property wey they acquire for UK. My people, we greet you now. We welcome you now once again to this our channel. The story wey we carry come somehow now about this UK-based investigative journalist wey they call David Hundeyin. If una recall, for our previous news, we report say this David na him release Babati Guinea passport and that news na wetin first surprise Nigerians now this same David Hundeyin don come out he don come expose more secret about Babati and his son Seyi onto the property wey they acquire for UK illegally. Make I don't talk too much, my people. Make I leave now. Make una watch this video and listen to wetin David Hundeyin get to talk about this matter. Oh yeah, now make una watch the video.
Grove End Road.
Yeah, Grove End Road in North London.
Yeah.
That particular property came up, and the issues surrounding it, the fact that it was acquired by Egboyega Oyetola, who himself has a deeper relationship with Tinubu than has been publicly disclosed. That in itself might become a story later on. And the fact that this property was initially obtained by Kola Aluko, who was linked to Jay-Z Alice Madueke, obviously. And basically, after the Buhari administration made a huge song and dance about going after Jay-Z specifically, as somebody who is part and parcel of the Buhari administration ended up obtaining it. This has been in the public domain for a while, but because that company, for the first time, has now been conclusively linked to Seyi Tinubu, that's what made it more significant from the point of view of global press. And then I'll quickly just mention this as well. If you followed the that parameters Alpha Beta case from 2020, that particular company was also mentioned in those case files. So in the case summary, it was mentioned that there was a list of companies that was mentioned that Alpha Beta made this sort of unexplained transfers to, total, in the millions of dollars, right? And the contention at the time was that this is money laundering, that there was no explanation for these transfers. There was no reason why transfers of this magnitude were made to companies that were just completely unknown to anyone in the company. Who were the owners of this company? Nobody knew. So you're just seeing transfers of $1.something million going out to some shell company registered offshore, and you don't know who it's going to, why it's going there, which is if you're familiar with how money laundering works, that's a very, very heavy red flag. So this company was mentioned in those files, and they transfer, I forget the exact sum, but a transfer was also mentioned that the transfer to this company was made in the 7-figure range in US dollars. So what it again proves is that in addition to the fact that Tinubu's son is obviously linked to a corruption scandal that is linked to the Jay-Z issue and all of that, Tinubu himself, via his undisclosed ownership stake in Alpha Beta, is also directly involved in running this company, because I suspect that Tinubu being who he is, to protect himself, he would throw anybody and everybody under the bus. So the other defense might have been to claim that this is Seyi Tinubu's thing, and that the Oga at the top doesn't know anything about it. But those Alpha Beta case files prove conclusively that Oga at the top, in fact, knows everything about it.
Now, David, you've done so much reports and investigative reports on the Tinubu's family and his. Now, considering all this, are all these setting the stage for an administration to be marked by profound corruption, self-interest, profiteering at the highest levels, and conflicts of interest? What are Nigerians to look out for?
So I think you've already answered the question. When you have or what purports to be an incoming government, as you said, at the moment, it's 50-50, but we have to assume that come May 29, that there's some kind of swearing in and this person becomes president. And assuming that presidency lasts for any appreciable period of time, what you potentially then have, in addition to the things you've mentioned, which is a government which is just pockmarked with different interest groups doing things that are in their self-interest, and the national interest is not even going to be on the burner, whether back burner or anything, it's not going to be on the cooker at all. It's not going to be on the stove. It's going to be thrown away somewhere. Apart from that, for me, the real danger with Tinubu presidency. So there are three major dangers of Tinubu presidency. Those things you mentioned, the fact that there's just going to be all-out greed, all-out scramble for, people who think that it's their turn. And then secondly, the international angle, which could result in, Nigeria becoming a pariah state, Nigeria being viewed through the lens of a narco state, and us suffering in terms of travel privileges and things like that. And then the third thing, which I think is actually the most dangerous thing, is that for the first time, Nigeria would have an administration which does not even pretend, does not even pay lip service to the idea of fighting corruption. Now, successive Nigerian administrations, both military and civilian, have obviously been corrupt. But one thing that has always been across all those administrations is that even if the corruption goes all the way to the top, there is always a certain measure of self-awareness that at least we can't be seen doing this in public. So if you recall, for example, under the Jonathan administration, when the then aviation minister, what's her name again? Stella
Odua.
Yeah, Stella Odua was basically caught out in that scandal, which I think was it? How much was it again? 155 million naira, something like that.
Thereabout.
Yeah. You could say that 155 million naira in terms of actual corruption that Nigeria faces, 155 million naira is a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. And you could say that there were much more corrupt things going on under that administration, possibly. But just because there was there were those bad optics that I can't have a cabinet minister who has been conclusively linked to a corruption scandal. Jonathan fired her, right? Which was the right thing to do, right? It's not that the other cabinet ministers or the other prominent members of the administration didn't also have corruption issues, which were even more than that. But it's that there is that thing that Yoruba people call itiju, that sense of shame. I can't be caught doing this. I can't be seen doing this. I think under a Tinubu presidency, there will be no such thing. Because what reason do you have to be ashamed? What reason do you have to think that there will be political consequences for being seen or being caught doing anything? When the Oga at the top himself, there is no type of misbehavior, scandal. There's no type of negative thing that is not already linked to this person's name. So whether it's kleptocratic governance, state capture and theft on steroids, involvement in drug trafficking, involvement in electoral violence and thuggery, open thuggery, open affiliation with members of people of the underworld, organized crime figures like MC Oluomo, just anything negative you can think of. Someone who's vice president is someone who Kabir Sokoto, the Christmas Day bomber, was caught staying in this person's house. So when you have an administration which is filled with characters like that, and then despite all of that, they somehow make it to the point of swearing in, and they get sworn in, and they're actually in power. The signal that sends out, which in my opinion is the most dangerous thing, the signal that sends out to Nigeria, to West Africa, and the world beyond, is that Nigeria is open for everything. It's free for all now. There is no such thing as rule of law. There is no such thing as journalism. There is no such thing as trying to do the right thing or trying to ensure that the right thing is done, trying to apply pressure on public officials to ensure that there's nothing like that anymore.
My people, not be small thing though. Hey, voila. David, they don't come analyze all these things so about Babati, the property where they say they acquire for UK and everything. Now here we see it talk, my people. Anyway, make una drop una comment how na visit this whole matter, and make una no forget to like and share this our video. Una do well. See you all in our next video. Bye.